Yo, what's going on YouTube? Look, first off, let me just thank you all for clicking on my thumbnail. I really do appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your time, because just like you're doing right now, before I moved to the area, I was doing extensive research from YouTube videos, blogs, Instagram posts, articles, pretty much everything at my disposal. But in regards to the YouTube videos, it really feels like some of those videos left things out that I really wasn't able to pinpoint until actually being here for a year. So yeah, I just want to lay everything out for you guys. I'm gonna have the pros, the cons, and some things that people might like or people might not like, and I'll call those the pro cons. So yeah, either way, let's get started right after this.
Let's go.
So yeah, when you first think of DC, I'm pretty sure the first thing that comes to mind is politics. And I mean, I completely understand. The government does live here. But this area, it really has so much more to offer than politics and monuments. And I feel like if you're gonna make such a big move, someone should really give you the honest truth on everything in this area. So you know what, how about this? Let's start off with the pros. So pro number one is the diversity. Now look, the DC area is home to a variety of different types of people. I mean, different cultures, backgrounds, countries, companies, religions. I mean, everything you can think of. It's extremely diverse here. It's actually one of the most diverse areas in the entire country. So to be completely honest, I am really confident that if you move here, you will definitely find a place to fit in. And look, even if that's not you and you don't want to fit in with the diversity, you can stand out. And what I like to say, if you're standing out, then you are outstanding. Drum roll, please. Okay, that was a little bit corny, but it's okay. Because pro number two is what most people don't realize is that diversity is not just black, white, Latino, and others. Diversity really affects everything. And in this area, diversity has affected the food, because the food is great. Like, have y'all ever heard of a Japanese African restaurant? Me neither, but look, with all the diversity here, it could actually happen authentically. And look, if those two types of demographics were not actually seated in this area, it would never happen. And even if it don't happen, at least you have options. There are Ethiopian restaurants, there's fine dining, there's seafood, there's other different types of African restaurants, Japanese, everything you can think of. And then to top it all off, you have the great brunches with bottomless mimosas and bottomless appetizers on Sundays that are insane. Like, the food here is spectacular. So pro number three is the job opportunities. Like, look, the government lives here, and because of that, it attracts a lot of industries. Everyone wants to be close to the government, because if you have your toes and fingers into some politicians, you know, you could really help your company out. So I am really confident that if you were to move here, you would be able to secure a pretty high paying job, a job that you actually want. Trust me, I am a living testimony to it. Me personally, I don't have a college degree. I currently work at Bloomberg, which is a very reputable, nice company. And it's all because I moved to this area and I put my foot out there. Pro number four is things to do. Oh my, this area is so big. I mean, there are so much things to do. When I say you could go to professional sporting events, you could go to the monuments, you could tube along the water. And on top of that, there are a ton of free things to do, like all of the museums. I've been to like 4, and they're pretty nice. I mean, it feels like there are endless amounts of things to do in this area just because it's so populated. Y'all, the nightlife is amazing. Like, truly, if you like to party, go ahead and pack your bags now and just come, because this area is for it. And honestly, what most people don't realize is right outside of DC, there are so many cities. There are about 10, probably a lot more than 10 cities right outside of DC, but most of these cities are really populated. They have their own downtown area, and it's really developed. So like, for instance, in Virginia, you have Alexandria, Arlington, Falls Church, Tyson's Corner. In Maryland, you have Silver Spring, Bethesda, Rockville. It's a lot of things to do as far as nightlife in all these surrounding cities. And then if you go to DC, the actual district, it's even more things to do as far as nightlife. Like, trust me, the nightlife here, it gets a 10 out of 10. And look, I live in Alexandria, but I only live 10 minutes away from the White House, which means I'm right here on the edge of DC. So I have like the option to really go in any direction that I would like. But most people, they actually don't leave their little city that they live in because everything they need is probably already there. So pro number 5 is the public transportation. Now look, y'all, the public transportation is great. I mean, you have a pretty expansive metro system. So, you know, you could take the train anywhere if you want to get there. Honestly, it's not as good as New York's. It's not as good as Philly's, but it's really nice and it's really clean. And then on top of that, I mean, you have the bikes that you can rent. They're almost everywhere. You have the electric scooters, the Birds and the Limes. You could actually ride those here. I know some cities don't allow it. And then, of course, you got the Ubers, the Lyfts, and the buses. I mean, don't sleep on the buses because there are bus stops like everywhere. In my last apartment building, there were like 4 bus stops all around the building, on each corner of the building, and they came almost every 15 to 20 minutes. So look, my point is, you don't need a car to live here. You truly don't. And I know people that don't have it. They said, what's the point? And then pro number 6 is the cleanliness. This area is pretty clean. Like, it's shock for this to be, I think it's the 5th or 6th biggest metro area in the US. It is very clean. If you go up to Philly, it's a lot dirtier. New York, it's a lot dirtier. I am really impressed with, you know, not seeing a lot of trash on the side of the roads or anything like that. I feel like the city does a pretty good job keeping it clean. And then I think the people here, they're also pretty serious about keeping their area clean as well. So I really do like how clean this area is. It's a small pro, but you know, after living so many other places, you realize, wow, I actually enjoy this. And in this one, I was unsure if this should be a pro or a pro con, but it's really the distance to the other major metros. To me, it's a pro because look, if you're driving from DC to Pittsburgh, 5 hours. If you want to drive from DC to Boston, 5 hours. If you want to drive to DC to New York, 3.5 hours. DC to Philly, 2.5 hours. And if you even want to drive from DC to Toronto, that's like 8 hours. And look, I know most people won't make these long drives, but in all honesty, if you want to escape, if you want to get to New York or go do some things up there, you can. And for the people that's single out there, I mean, this could probably expand your dating options because you could get on a train and go right up to New York to go visit your girlfriend in a 3-hour train ride. So I like where this area sits. I truly appreciate that. All right, so now let's get to the actual true pro cons. And the pro con number 1 is the terrain. Now, you might like this, you might not, but DC pretty much sits right at the edge of a hill. So there are a lot of curvy roads, a lot of hills in this area. And I didn't realize this until moving here. And then I looked at a map, and of course, DC sits right on the edge of the Appalachian mountain range. So, you know, you can drive to the mountains in 30 minutes. As you see, I've went and it's really beautiful. Shenandoah Park is really nice. So I like that you could just go right to the mountains if you want to. They're not, you know, the Rockies, but they're nice to look at, especially when the seasons are changing. And then on the other end, if you want to go to the beach, that's just an hour and a half the opposite way. You could go to the Maryland beach, or if you want to do other water activities on the Potomac, you could do that too. But I think the terrain is really interesting because I don't think people realize how green and nice and like luscious this area is. I hope that's the right word. Pro con number 2 is the seasons. Now, look, I mean, it's tough. I like warm weather. I really do. I appreciate it a lot. I don't mind 95-degree weather, and it gets that hot here. But it gets really cold too. I don't like cold weather. So honestly, you know, you could be indifferent about it. You know, I appreciate the fall leaves and I like seeing the colors. It's nice to see, but I don't like when the temperature goes below 50 degrees. So you have all 4 seasons here. Pretty sure if you live any further south than DC, then you deal with hot summers too. So it's not that much different outside of, you know, if you're living in Atlanta, you probably never see snow. If you move up here, I mean, at this very moment, it's like 6 inches of snow outside. So it happens. It's not as frequent as people might think, but it does happen. And pro con number 3 is the population. Like, look, you can be a small town type of person, or you could be a big town type of person. Now, again, people don't realize you can live 45 minutes away from DC, an hour away from DC, and it'll just feel like you're in a rural area, not a big population. Or you could live even closer and you could tell I'm in the city, you know. So population is, you know, I appreciate it because with a bigger population comes more opportunities, comes more things to do. But I can understand how some people want a smaller town vibe. But in all honesty, you can find that in this area, truthfully. Okay, so now let's get to the things that you all have been waiting on. These are the reasons that you might not want to move to this area. The cons. So con number 1. The high cost of living. Look, it is expensive here. It definitely is. The closer to DC you get, the higher price it gets. Now, I will tell you, it is not California. It is not New York City. But it's pretty pricey. But think about it. If you move here, I'm pretty confident that you will make more money. Even like, let's say someone who transfers Chick-fil-A's, you're gonna make more money here than you were making in, let's say, Georgia or Atlanta or Florida, because it is more expensive. So it could kind of weigh out, but that's not the only thing. I mean, childcare, private education, even food is a little bit more pricier. So it doesn't completely weigh out, but you know, it's still just kicking out so much money. It kind of hurts, but at least I could see why it's so expensive. I can actually see it's so developed, so it kind of makes sense to me, but nobody likes to pay a lot of money. Now, on top of that, con number 2 is the traffic. And when I say traffic, I mean the traffic flows. Like, this area, I don't know who designed these roads, but they are long and gone, and they should stay long and gone. They probably should have never came in the first place, because the traffic flow here is different from many other cities. Like, in all honesty, it's a little intimidating. And to be honest, if you consider yourself a good driver, you should be fine. I consider myself a good driver, but the thing is, there are still, after being here for over a year, I still feel like, oh, should I turn this way? Why is this traffic circle 6 lanes wide? Do I go out this way? Can I turn left? It is it's pretty daunting and scary sometimes. And then on top of that, of course, any major metro is going to have actual traffic congestion problems too. And although I haven't really dealt with that a ton, I definitely see how this area traffic can be really bad. But I've been working remote, so luckily I've been able to dodge a bullet. And then con number 3, to make the traffic issue even worse, it's the roads. Like, the actual roads. The roads here are so beat up and cracked up. And look, don't get me wrong, it's not even majority of the roads. I'll say there are small portions of cracks and potholes here and there, but where they are bad, they are really bad. And I think about it scientifically, you know, it's colder here. When the water melts, it expands into ice, which causes the cracks in the roads. So I understand it, but y'all need to fix it, because I'm tired of bumping, going on the highway, I don't like that. And look, y'all probably know DMV stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. In my opinion, it stands for destroys many vehicles, because it will tear your car up. So honestly, I will say, look, if you don't have to drive, don't drive, or just try to do a mixture of both, because you're gonna need tires more frequently driving here. Trust me. That pretty much wraps it up. So now that you know the pros and the cons of living in this area, please tell me in the comment section. Do the cons outweigh the pros? Could you see yourself living in this area? Or how about this? Could you even see yourself visiting to consider living in this area? Or have you completely crossed it out? You tell me in the comments, because I truthfully want to know. And if you have any questions for me, like maybe I left something out as well, you could definitely shoot me a message on Instagram, LinkedIn, or just write on YouTube, and I will do my best to get you an answer. Trust. But either way, if y'all found this video at all anyway helpful, I would greatly appreciate if you can like and subscribe. That would be great. And look, if you are thinking about moving to this area, I do have some empty apartment tours in my videos. I also have 100 things to do in the DC Metro in my videos as well. So I have multiple videos from there, so you can actually see if that's something that you want to do. So yeah, if you're interested in this area, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But I know time is very precious, and I've taken way too much of yours already. So let me go ahead and log off. Again, thank you all for watching. Peace.